Okay, let's begin. So in this video, I'm going to talk about active learning and also about online videos, which I think are one of the key components of active learning. Okay, so let's get started. So what is active learning? This is the one of the famous definitions of active learning, and but when I first read this, it was difficult for me to understand all these. So I don't expect you to understand all these just by listening to me explaining this once. But from my own experience, I think you can understand this first part, the first sentence. Students are involved in more than listening. Okay, so this is one of the things that these researchers say when they define active learning, what active learning is. And so when we say active learning, students are involved in more than listening. So please remember this, okay? And the other things that these researchers say when they define active learning are these. So less emphasis is placed on transmitting information, and more emphasis is placed on developing student skills. And students are engaged in activities, for example, reading, discussing, and writing. And greater emphasis is placed on students' exploration of their own attitudes and values. Difficult, I know, but so here please just try to understand this part. Students are involved in more than listening, okay? And I think you can understand this. But let me explain a little bit about these as well. So transmitting information. So this is like the teacher explaining things. So the teacher tries to transmit information. So the teacher has many things to explain, and so they try to teach those things. So they try to transmit information. But when we say active learning, the emphasis is not on that. Well, it's important, of course, but the emphasis is not on that part, but the emphasis is on developing student skills. And please take a look at these activities. So these activities don't involve listening. They are reading, discussing, writing, and listening is not involved here. Okay. And so if we try to understand what active learning is, if we try to understand what active learning is, I think it's easier to think what is not active learning. What is not active learning? And typically, one of the things that are not active learning is just listening. So listening. So if students just listen to the teacher and the teacher just keeps talking and talking and talking all the time, that's not active learning. So if this teacher talks all the time and the students just listen to this teacher, that's not active learning. Okay? And in this kind of case, we call this teacher a sage on the stage. So a sage is someone who is clever, who is intelligent, who has a lot of knowledge, and he stands on the stage and he gives a lot of information to the students from the stage. So he's a sage on the stage. And if the teacher is like this, we don't call that class active learning style class. That's not active learning. Okay, do you understand this? I think you do, I hope. So, if this is not active learning, if just listening is not active learning, what is active learning? So these are typical activities in active learning style classes. So for example, speaking, pair work, group work. So if you do pair work, you have to speak. If you do group work, you have to speak. And making a presentation, if you make a presentation, obviously that's more than just listening. You have to speak, and you have to show your slide, and also if you make a public speech, so this is like making a speech in front of the class. That this is also a typical example of active learning, and also discussion, debate, and writing something, and reading. Well, actually, reading is active learning, but listening is not. Maybe some of you are wondering why. If you can listen passively, but I think you can't reading. You can't read passively. You can listen even if you are asleep. Please think about your alarm clock. So even if you're asleep, actually your brain can hear sounds from your alarm clock. But if you are asleep, you can't read at all. And experiential learning. So this is something like so please think about a textbook in English, and maybe your English textbook explains, for example, foreign cultures, foreign people, and but if you just get information about those things from your textbook, that's not experiential learning. When we say experiential learning, we mean a kind of learning where you actually experience something. So it's just more than it's more than just getting information about something. It has to. So you have to experience that thing. So for example, actually meeting foreign people. So maybe your teacher can invite foreign people into your classroom, and you experience interacting with those foreign people. That's experiential learning, and that's one of the examples of typical experiential learning. And also project-based learning and doing research. So you do a project, your own project, and maybe you can do some survey or experiment. So it's like research. So these are typical activities in active learning style classes. But maybe some of you are wondering, isn't listening still necessary? Yes, of course. So listening is necessary. So if the students don't listen, if they never listen, they can't get information from the teacher at all, and that's a problem. So the true question is whether they have to do it in the class. So listening is necessary. This is true. So but do they I mean do the student really have to listen to the teacher in the class? In the past, maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they had no choice. So they had no choice but to come to the class and listen to the teacher in the class. They had no other choice. But now they have, well, actually we have other choices, and one of them is online videos. So these are videos on the internet. So these are videos that you can access you can access at home or maybe in the train on your smartphone, for example. So these are videos on the internet. So if the students have to just listen, they can do so by watching online videos without even coming to the class. And if they watch online videos before they come to the class, we can use our class time for other activities. Which is good, of course. So if you watch an online video, you just watch and listen. But if you just listen to the teacher in the class, that's not active learning. But if you watch an online video and if you listen to the explanation in that video, then we can do other activities in the class. Maybe some of these activities in the class because you have already listened to the explanation in the video. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of how useful online videos can be when we try to do active learning style classes. And so I'm going to give you 2 examples, and one is flip teaching. If you don't know what flip teaching is, of course I will explain what flip teaching is, but maybe you can Google this. And the other example will be language classes. So let's begin with flip teaching. So the first example is flip teaching. So I took this from Wikipedia. Flipped classroom or flip teaching. That's an instructional strategy and a type of blended learning. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. That reverses the traditional educational arrangement by delivering instructional content often online outside of the classroom. So so traditionally and maybe now even now the teachers teach in the class. Of course, they do. And so they deliver instructional content in the class, usually, traditionally. But in flipped teaching, we deliver instructional content outside of the classroom, often on the internet. And flipped teaching moves activities, including those that may have traditionally been considered homework, into the classroom. So flipped teaching moves activities into the classroom. So for example, so the main example here is homework, and students do their homework, of course, outside the classes. They do their homework at home. But in flipped teaching, we move homework into the classroom, and we move instructional content outside, out of the classroom. So what is instructional content then? So this is something. This is things that we have to teach. Don't worry, I'm gonna give you some more concrete examples. So so the Wikipedia goes on. So in a flipped classroom, students watch online lectures, collaborate in online discussions, or carry out research at home, and engage in concepts in the classroom with the guidance of the instructor. So here, the important part is here. So here, the teacher's job in the classroom is not conveying information, but guiding students with the guidance of the instructor. So this means that that the teachers have to be guides. They have to guide students. So we have to change our way of thinking. This is sometimes called from sage on the stage to the guide on the side. So the teacher in a class is like a guide on the side of the students. Okay. Okay. So in flipped teaching, in traditional way of teaching, the teacher explains and the students listen in the class, and outside the class, the students do activities, and we call those activities homework. But in a flipped class, so these are flipped. So this goes into the class and this goes out of the class. So the students do activities in the class, and outside the class, the teacher explains and the students listen through online videos. Okay, so the teacher provides online videos before the class, and the students watch those online videos before they come to the class. And in the class, the students do activities, and the teacher helps the students do activities. So this is a typical flipped classroom. But what is important here? Actually, flipping everything is not so important, I think. So please take a look at this. So this is a traditional way of teaching before, and the time goes like this, in this direction, before the class, and we have the class, and after the class. So traditionally, in the class, the teacher explains and the students listen, and after the class, the students do activities, and we call those activities homework. So the students do their homework individually, usually. But I think if they do it individually, maybe they should do it individually anyway. And the students do activities that cannot be done individually. So in the class, I think they should do activities that cannot be done individually. If an activity can be done individually, it should be done individually at home, I think. So this is the typical image of a flipped classroom. But maybe this is not a typical image of a flipped classroom. So this is not quite flipped, but the essence is the same. So the explanation part is moved out of the class through the use of online videos. So so before the class, the students watch online videos, and in those online videos the teacher explains, and by watching those online videos, the students can listen to the teacher's explanations. So the explanation part is moved from inside the classroom to outside the classroom. But not everything is flipped, because homework is just homework still. So what do we do in the class? The students do activities such as pair work, group work, and those activities that cannot be done individually. Those activities that can be done only in groups. So maybe we can't call this type of class a flipped class, because not everything is flipped, but I think the essence is the same as a typical flipped class. And what is good about this style of teaching is that because the teacher explains whatever they have to explain in online videos, we can have much more time in the class, and we can spend that time for activities, for group work, for pair work. So in a flipped class, the first step is to move the explanation part out of the class by providing an online video, and the second part is move the homework into the class and have the students do it together. So this is a typical flipped class, but I think the first step is more important than the second step, because sometimes homework can be done individually anyway. So we should have the students do it at home. So homework that can be done individually should be done individually anyway as homework. And in the class, we should do activities that can be done only in groups. And if we use online videos, we can do this type of class. So that's why online videos are useful. So we can do this kind of class, maybe this one as well. Okay, let me explain the second example. So the use of online videos for language classes. I'm gonna take this as an example, but I'm not saying that this is the best way of teaching a foreign language. This is just one example. So what is PPP? It stands for Presentation Practice in Production. And so in this way of teaching, we divide our class into 3 parts. The first part is presentation, and the second part is practice, and the third part, the last part, is production. So in the first part, presentation, first the teacher presents the target grammar or the target expression. So the teacher presents the grammar that the students have to learn in that class. So this is the presentation part, and the second part is practice. So the students practice the grammar, practice using the grammar through pattern practice. I mean, it doesn't have to be pattern practice, but anyway, they do some practice. And in the production part, the students produce sentences involving the grammar in a communicative task. So maybe they can do pair work and group works, and this cannot be done individually. To communicate, you need to have someone to communicate with. So to do pair work, you need a partner. To do group work, you need some people. And so so your students communicate with someone, other students, and so this production part requires communication, and communication requires partners or other members in your group. Okay, so this is one style of teaching a foreign language. But I'm not saying this is the best way of teaching a foreign language, the best style of foreign language class. This is just an example, okay? So let me contrast normal PPP against PPP with online videos. So in normal PPP, the teacher does all the 3 parts in the class, okay? But if we use online videos, if we combine online videos with PPP, we can move this presentation part out of the class, and then by doing so, we can secure more time for practice and production. Okay. Of course, we can have a little bit of presentation still in the class, but most part of the presentation can be moved out of the class through the use of online videos. And if we do so, we can have more time for practice and production, which is good, I think. And on top of that, the students can watch those online videos even after the class, because those videos are on the internet all the time, so the students can watch it again and again. And we move this part out of the class because the students can do this part individually. In this part, they just listen, and I mean the teacher just explains, and the students just listen. So we can move this part out of the class, and by providing online videos. Of course, when the teacher explains in front of the students, it's more effective. I know, but many things, I think many things can be conveyed. A lot of information can be conveyed through online videos. That's also true. And also, if we think about the language of instruction, I think we can understand the usefulness of online videos more. So Japan's Ministry of Education, we call it MEXT. So MEXT says English should be taught in English. So if you want to become a teacher of English, maybe you should do this in the future. So you should teach English in English. And so then we wonder, do we have to avoid explaining in Japanese? So explanations about grammar in Japanese should be avoided in the class because everything should be taught in English. But isn't it difficult to explain the English grammar in English? Don't you want to use Japanese? And also, explanations or presentations in English are, sometimes difficult to understand. I mean, for your students to difficult for your students to understand. So not all students can understand them if they hear them just once, maybe. So if the language is instruction is always English, we'll have some difficulty. And online videos can be useful in this kind of situation, I think. So, so this is normal class. So if we move this presentation part, okay, let's say we do this in English, but if we move this out of the class, then the students can watch the videos again and again, so they can have more chances, more opportunities to listen to the teacher's explanations, the teacher's presentations in English. If they listen to it just once and they can't understand it, they can listen to it twice or even 3 times, 4 times. And if you have to explain something in Japanese, if you have to explain the English grammar in Japanese, you can also do it in a video. If you move this part out of the class, then your class will be Japanese free. So you don't have to use Japanese in your class. You explain in Japanese in your video. So you can move this part out of the class and Japanese will disappear from your class. So you can achieve this. And maybe you can move just this part out of the class and you can leave this part in your class. And then everything is in English. Okay. Thanks for listening.